Affirms heaven is for real in this account, and Akiana's painting of Jesus. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Akiana's painting of Jesus, but I'm going to read you this story, which is more or less a news article. Okay, it starts, her husband's untimely death from a rare form of cancer left her reeling as she wallowed in grief, seeking God's presence. Her 5-year-old had several vivid dreams about heaven and hell that buoyed her faith in the Lord. Ewan Wynn Tran and her husband Ton, so they're Oriental, lived in Australia for 30 years following their arrival from Vietnam. He was a mechanical engineer and she a pharmacist, fulfilling their dreams in a land of fresh opportunities when they received unexpected and devastating news. In 2013, Ton was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer growing in his nose and throat. He was given 4 months to live. Ton was not a believer during their 8 years of marriage, but 2 months before he died, he accepted Jesus as his Savior and Lord. By God's grace, he lived a year, Wynn recounts. When he passed away, I was so devastated. I believed with all my heart he would be healed. Some of their friends also believed he would be healed, and even though they saw a vision of him cured, testifying about his healing, but it was not to be. On February 13, 2014, one day before Valentine's Day, he passed into the arms of Jesus. Because of Wynn's overwhelming confidence he would be healed, Ton's passing undercut her faith. I held on to that, his healing, with every ounce of belief. When he actually passed away, I couldn't figure it out. For 3 days, I was in a daze, she says. Please give me a dream or vision, she cried out to God, desperate for his reassurance. The dream came from an unlikely source, her 5-year-old son, Kieran. On Sunday morning, Kieran woke up and came running into her room. I saw Dad, and he was in heaven. It was beautiful, Mom. He was with God, he said. Breathlessly. Sorry, that flipping the page didn't work so good there. She asked Karen what God looked like. He had long hair and looked like Thor, and he wore all white, he said. Karen had recently seen the film Thor starring Chris Hemsworth. He said Ton was also dressed in white, with white shoes and a white hat, which Wynn thinks may refer to a halo. It was like it was Dad's birthday, and everybody was singing and clapping to him. After that, Mommy, I was in Daddy's room, he continued. At first, Wynn thought he meant his earthly room, but he was referring to Ton's heavenly home. I was sleeping beside Daddy, and when I woke up, he fed me my favorite food and my favorite drink, and we watched TV together, he said. When I got up to leave, 3 fairies stopped me. They were really tall, he recounted. Why do you say they were fairies, she asked. Because they had large white wings. Then God, the Father, held me, Corinne said. How do you know it was God the Father? He was invisible, but I know he was God the Father. In a second dream, Corinne described his dad's heavenly house as very large and brightly lit. Daddy was with God, he said. I was sitting with God and told him a joke, and he laughed. I saw 2 holes in his wrists. 1 hole is here, and 1 hole is here. He was bleeding, Mommy, but he wasn't crying. Wynn was intrigued by his description. First, she never told her son about Jesus being crucified through his wrists. Secondly, she always thought the nails that crucified Jesus went through the palms of his hands. But as she researched this, she discovered there are many who believe the Romans may have crucified Jesus through his wrists, something her 5-year-old would have no way of knowing. In the dreams, Corinne also saw rainbows, animals, and insects that don't bite. I always wonder why Noah didn't swat those 2 mosquitoes. He said the light in heaven comes from God. The thing he remembers most about heaven is the peace, a concept his mother never taught him about and thinks would be difficult for most children his age to grasp. I have never explained peace to him, Wynne notes. Everything he said was consistent with what Colton Burpo described in Heaven is for Real. She said, I don't know if any of you saw that movie, but it went around, 10 years ago or something? More. It was like he read Colton's book, but he never had. In the book, there is a painting of Jesus by the talented young artist Akiana, based on a vision she received from God. Colton Burpo said her painting was the closest to the Jesus he saw in his near-death experience in heaven. Wynne showed Karen several descriptions of Jesus from the internet and asked if any of them resembled Jesus. He shook his head each time an image came up. But when he saw Akiana's painting, he exclaimed, "Yes, that's Jesus!" There is no doubt in my mind that that is Jesus, Wynne says, marveling that several children around the world independently verify the image. In his dream, Karan also saw Satan fighting with God. He said Satan's mouth had a long tongue like a snake. They were fighting Mommy, and God won and kicked Satan out of heaven, Corinne told her. In Corinne's 3 dreams of eternity, the 3rd dream was about hell. It's really hot, and it stinks just horrible, Corinne told her. There was a part that Jesus held my hand and said it was dangerous, and he would not take me in there. Wynne recorded her son describing each of the 3 dreams. She is glad now because he has already forgotten a few of the details. She believes his story may bolster people's faith. I have used my story to tell people there is a heaven and a hell, she says. Heaven is for real, and God is there, she exclaims. Pretty much done, I think. That's it.
Okay.
So I have 2 more witnesses, because we got to have 2 or 3 witnesses. So those are for another day.
Yes, sir.